Dandavat Pranams. Putting on the ear pod. 2. The live stream from the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram in Soquel, aka Santa Cruz, California. My name is Vaidehi Devidasi, and I am here in service of Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, just to share a little something today. So every Monday at 7:30 p.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time, I go live here to talk about Krishna conscious topics and to share this stream of thought. And really, I like to share from my life experience, having grown up in the Krishna conscious movement in the Bhakti Yoga tradition, and having spent most of my life, living in the ashrams of Srila Govinda Maharaj and all over the world basically, but mainly in California in the United States. And I spent also a lot of time in India, in Navadvip and Kolkata, and got to travel with him a bit. So I like to share from those experiences and from obviously the content that is available to us by the grace of our Guru Varga, all of the amazing books and classes, lectures, and the opportunities for Krishna Katha that are available to us through our international community and our local community, depending on where you are. And so that's what I like to share. Last week I was not available. I was not able to attend due to a work snafu, technical difficulties, and I had to reshoot all the videos that I was working on. I was having some challenges, but was under deadline. So I didn't get to be here, so I'm so sorry for that. I really like to stay on top of the schedule and to keep my word and to show up. So I'm so sorry that I could not make it, but here we are, back in the temple room. And so I just want to take a moment to really settle into the space and into this time, and to welcome all of you as you're coming on to the live stream. And if you'd like, please share where you are from. Where are you watching from? What part of the world are you in? I'd love to see in the comment section. I can't really see who's here unless you comment, so it's always nice to see who is here. Before we begin, I would just love to chant some of our Pranam Mantras and invocations, beginning with Panchatattva, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gauda Bhaktavinda. It is by their grace and their mercy that we get to be here, and that we get to have the shelter of Srila Govinda Maharaj's umbrella. And this is our good fortune, whether you are in an ashram or not. To be under his umbrella is very sacred and special, and it is headed by the Panchatattva and our Guru Varga. And continuing with Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Om Agyanati Mirandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurva Bista Supudakam Guru Kanera Shisha Sambhushitam Chintya Samastavera Nipunam Shri Rupa Pantanugam. Just like to always remember Srila Gurudev and his mood with the way he liked to share and graciously and kindly educate us about Krishna consciousness. Very natural, very down to earth. And I'm just remembering his mood and his sense of humor, and also just the power of his words and this concept of passive conscious sound in the form of the Shastra, and then the embodiment of that sound being Guru, and also Maha Mantra. So that is always our shelter, and just remembering that during these times, as the world keeps dividing itself and dividing itself and dividing itself. So what keeps us together is remembrance, chanting, and the association of those devotees that inspire us to speak about and remember and think about spiritual life versus otherwise. So we're here in the temple room, just a quick little tour. This is our parampara here, if you are not familiar, and just giving you the opportunity to be in the space. And the altar, where the deities are currently being taken care of after the arti ceremony. And soon we will have their darshan in a few minutes. So I wanted to just chant a little bit before we begin, and then we will continue with some discussion. But I'd like to know, I have a theme in mind, but I would like to know if anybody that is here today has any questions or any conversation they would like to have. If you do, please just type in the comment section and let me know, and I'll be happy, if I have the capacity, to converse on that topic or to share something. So feel free to ask any questions if you like, and for now I invite you to chant with me. Call and response. I'll chant everything twice so that you can also sing along. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Saparikara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. And Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Okay, so, you know, that's kind of like the modern day equivalent of saging, is chanting the holy name. Chanting the holy name and clearing the space and invoking. So today's topic I was thinking about this week that I wanted to share about, it really comes from one of my favorite verses, and it is this verse of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It is his invocation, his Pranam Mantra. And it is this concept of truth and untruth, and this moment right here is truth. This moment of having the darshan of Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari. This moment of engaging in kirtan is truth. This moment of chanting is truth, right? This moment of being in congregation and having some Krishna Katha is truth. But before we get carried away with that, I wanted to come back over here and talk a little bit more about this. So in that Pranam mantra, that is my favorite. So Nikila Bhuvanamaya Chinna Vichina Kartri Vibhuda Bahulamrigya Mukti Mohantadatri Shitilita Vidhi Raga Radya Radeshadani Bilasatu Hriddi Nityam Bhakti Siddhantavani. So, you know, each line in this verse, we could talk about it forever. But Chinna Vichina Kartri, okay, so, and Mukti Mohantadatri. So this concept of cutting truth from untruth and how important it is to have that distinction. And this leads me to the modern day topic of boundaries, okay? So we've heard about, you know, Chaya Bega Domi, Chaya Dosha Shodhi, subjugating the 6 urges, rectifying the 6 defects, and this understanding of the importance of discernment, discrimination, cutting truth from untruth. It's one of my favorite concepts. And I remember I had a friend in Los Angeles, and we would call it, dropping the guillotine. And I remember one of Pushta Krishna's classes, not that I attended all the time, which is ridiculous, to be honest. It's ridiculous that I did not attend every single one of his classes while he was here. Pushta Krishna Prabhu is one of the devotees that was a part of the community here at the Seva Ashram. And in my eyes, he is one of the most exemplary devotees because he really, I'm speaking in my language, he ruled whatever field he was in. He ruled the world of his material life, right? He ruled being one of the topmost surgeons in the world, or at least in the United States. I don't really know all the detailed facts, but I've actually mentioned his name in a hospital before and people knew who he was. Okay, so he ruled that. He ruled his family life, excellent father, excellent husband. He ruled his seva, excellent preacher, and excellent secretary and assistant to Srila Prabhupada. And he's one of my favorite examples because he, back to one of the first live streams that I did where Srila Gurudeva told me when I was a young girl, maybe somewhere between the ages of 11 and 12, and he told me, balance your material and your spiritual life diligently, okay? So because of that instruction, my eyes were open to messages from the environment and examples and Krishna Katha, Gauda Katha that helped me to actually embody that instruction. And I want to say that really quick before I continue on this topic, is that, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya, the lotus words that come from the lotus mouth of your Gurudev, right? Srila Govinda Maharaj in my case, and in this case, are really divine transcendental instruction. And the way I've always seen those words is, they're not really who I am now, but they're my potential. So whatever instructions he gave me are my potential, and it's my opportunity to try to fill those shoes in this lifetime. So it's not, anything he ever said to me, I never thought, oh yes, I have accomplished that. Rather, I thought, oh, that's an indication of what I need to pray, to work on, and try to embody. And so, in that spirit, as an 11, 12-year-old girl, he gave me that instruction. And so it's been my life's work to try to understand that. And I'm 34 now, and I'm still trying, okay? I'm still trying to balance that. And so, balancing your material and your spiritual life diligently. Anyway, Pushta Krishna became a great example for me growing up because I saw that beautiful example. And the reason why he's being brought up is because he inspired me in that way and in the instructions that I received, but also because in one of his classes, he was talking about, I remember I came in that day and I was perplexed. I think I was bewildered and suffering as a result of some material condition or situation, business as usual. That's how we roll as conditioned human beings. We're constantly tripping on adhyatmikari, daivikari, bhautika, right? That's what we trip on all day. It's like the palashashun, we're trying to smell the flower and the bug flies up the nose, chewing on the cactus thorn, thinking the blood to be nectar, right? So we're constantly trying to find some fulfillment, but we're constantly plagued by the situation here in this material world. But hey, side note, footnote, it's an excellent reminder that it's not our home. So if you haven't had your regular reality check, just, use the daily sufferings as that regular reality check to remind you that it's not your home. But to get on with the subject, I love all my side notes. I'm a side note person. I constantly do that. But when I think of things, so many other thoughts and examples come, and I like to sometimes share those. So walked into that class tripping on, one of the probably Adhyatmika and Adi Bhautika, to be honest, suffering from my own mind and from some other living entity. And Pushta Krishna Prabhu was like very vehemently like talking about slashing it at the root. And I was kind of like, that's kind of brutal. And I was thinking to myself, okay, that's kind of gnarly though. How do you really do that when there's attachment, when there's bewilderment, when there's lamentation, when there's regret? How do you slash it at the root? Ami Janina, I don't know. But he said that. And for some reason to this day, it's been a couple years now, I never forget that. And I think about that at least once a week, slashing it at the root, slashing it at the root. And so I've been I literally am a meditator. Like I meditate on the words that I hear. Whether I hear something in class or someone says something to me, I literally will hold that and like a diamond, I will continue polishing it my whole life, and streams of consciousness will come from that. And so slashing it at the root, I'm looking at Gurudev's photo. If you see me looking off camera, that's kind of, even when I work, I'm doing that, right? I'm constantly kind of thinking of getting inspiration from that plane. And so slashing it at the root. And so far, the polishings have led me to this understanding of, in order to slash things at the root, we first need to establish firm boundaries, okay? Yes, and we could take it on, all levels, body, mind, and spirit. Take that on a personal level, take that on a physical level, and take that on a spiritual level. For the spiritual level, though, we're gonna have to understand the difference between truth and untruth. Chinna vichinna kartri, so that we can clearly cut that. And I would say, if you really, say you have some little material aspiration to be super boss in this lifetime and in this world, the way you're gonna get boss, or the way you're really gonna be cool, to be honest, is by becoming acquainted with what our Guru Varga has dished out for us as being truth and untruth. Because if anybody knows what truth and untruth is, it's them. So when we're talking about truth and untruth on a spiritual level, first step, become acquainted with what truth is. Become acquainted with what truth is not, right? And sometimes the way we become acquainted with that truth is by experiencing a load of untruth continuously. And referencing now Udamanyu Prabhu, Udamanyu Prabhu Seva Vikram, who I consider super gangster, because I like this expression, because I think, some of our devotees in our mission are just so potent and so firm in their truth and in their understanding of what untruth is, that they're just an example. Like, they are clear and bold. Back to this idea of a guru, right? Guru is heavy, like the Himalayas, immovable, clear and firm in their perspective. Okay, so if we want any of that, it's important that we absorb what that is by becoming acquainted with what our Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, what is coming from the lotus mouth of our Guru Varga, and Chitete Kariya Aikya, like not desiring anything else, and allowing really their messages to percolate through our system, percolation process, which is why I bring up some of my own personal thoughts around the fact that whatever instruction Gurudev gave to me, or whenever I hear something, and that is if it doesn't go in one ear out the other, and I'm lucky enough to capture something, I take that and I literally will meditate on that. So percolation system, passive conscious sound, and active conscious sound that is working through us, and it's on us to expose ourselves to hearing that Krishna Shruti Bir Vimrikam, to hearing that transcendental knowledge, and to allow our minds to absorb it. Mind can be your own best friend or your worst enemy. So the way you make your mind your friend is by engaging that mind in transcendental knowledge, in passive conscious sound and an active conscious sound, aka Shastra and the words that come from the lotus mouth of our spiritual masters. And obviously we have our amazing world-leading acharyas, and they are such great examples of the representation of that knowledge and that information. So, China Vichina Kartri. How do we understand what truth and untruth is? Absorb and percolate the knowledge that is being given to us by our Guru Varga. If you want to boss up and up level your, right? The different levels of intelligence. Some learn by experiencing it themselves and getting the slapping, and some learn by learning from the mistakes of others, right? And so on and so forth. So, Yudamani Prabhu Seva Vikram would often talk about this idea of this, like, I forget exactly what the joke is, but it's like, it's like this Maya, right, with teasing you with this sandesh. And every time you reach for that sandesh, you get slapped in the face, whatever, hit over the head with a hammer. And so, we're constantly being pulled towards untruth because we're not very well acquainted with what that truth is. And so we become thrilled and bewildered and enticed and illusioned by all the fool's gold coverings, right? And phantasmagoria that is coming up to distract us. But like Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Haridas Thakur and all of the examples of the saints who have had literally heavenly damsels come to bewilder them and distract them, because they are fixed in truth, none of that is truly distracting, nor is there an extreme repulsion and like resistance towards it. The sound effects, I know, they're real, because they are so firm, right? Aversion and attraction, two different sides of the same coin of illusion. So if you're really averse to something and you want to go along and like judge and gossip and talk about people, you're still biting into that very same thing that you're criticizing. And right, if you're being entangled by the distractions, then you're also biting into the hook of illusion. So how can we understand this, truth from untruth? So spiritually speaking, step one, absorb the content and get familiar with what truth and untruth is. But oftentimes, right, for the body mind, we are having to experience a lot of untruth. However, here's where every wave is favorable, right? All those untruths that we're having to experience and the discomforts are sometimes the very contrast that we need to establish untruth. And I hope you're following. I hope this is helping whoever's listening, including myself, right? Oftentimes we have to experience the load of untruth heavily and consistently until we learn to overcome the lesson. And as I've been thinking about this concept of truth versus untruth, the concept of boundaries has emerged. And often it can be hard to bring to our level these very high concepts and to bring to the experiential level these very high concepts and to really understand them. But that's where patience is necessary, where faith is necessary, where confidence is necessary, where associating with the Vaishnavas and engaging not in Gramya Katha and Prajalpa, because that's not Vaishnava association and that's not the point of having devotee friends, but rather engaging in Krishna Katha. Now we're making use of the association and properly engaging it and being able to reveal your mind and confidence to discuss, if you will, process, percolate these concepts. Because it's often that we don't really understand and experience the transformation or that yoga, that connection, until we really bring it into our hearts. And even if it's a very simple way, until we bring it into our hearts and really percolate and meditate upon what it is that we're receiving. And that's precisely what I want to now speak on a little bit more, is the process that we have available to us, and if we choose it, to take the time every day to ponder on these subject matters and to think about these subject matters and get into the action of not just meditating and thinking about them, but being active, being a part of the transcendental sound movement and speaking these concepts, reading these concepts, and sharing these thoughts with others and having that food for thought. But this process of percolating and really absorbing the content does require some acceptance and understanding of self and some real practical, mundane getting to know of yourself, which leads me to the point of boundaries. And before we talk about this idea or concept of boundaries and how it can be helpful with the process of discrimination, of discernment, chinna vichina kartri, and slashing it at the root, it's, necessary to remember that the heart is the tasting machine. I don't mean the heart that is bewildered by material existence and suffering and doesn't know the difference between up or down and truth and untruth. But I mean that heart that is in the process of subjective evolution of consciousness. The heart that is engaged in the religion of bhakti, of devotion, of God consciousness. That heart is developing a level of sincerity and sukriti that becomes that polished antenna that starts to become the receiver of what our Guru Varga and the environment, which is ultimately Krishna because the center is everywhere, is transmitting to us. It's when our heart vision, our heart, our antenna, our mind, our third eye, all the different names, when that is rusty, that we receive untruth as truth and truth as untruth, right? We get it all backwards and upside down. But when that cheto darpana marjanam, that cleansing of the mirror of the mind, is happening as a result of that percolation, right? The processing, the landing, the absorption, the smaranam, the kirtanam, the shravanam, right? The remembrance, the speaking, and the hearing of this transcendental sound vibration. That percolation process is that cheto darpana marjanam, is that cleansing of the mirror of the mind. It's polishing the antenna, and it's establishing truth from untruth, even if it's just on a subconscious level. Because now that antenna is a little less covered, now that heart is a little bit more qualified to become the tasting machine, the little guidance that encourages you onto the path that actually nurtures your soul, onto that path of truth versus untruth. And so, I'm just going to pause right there because I want that to land also for me. And today I'm just easily distracted. When we really begin to develop a relationship with this sacred knowledge, and when we really make it a daily practice to hear it, to absorb it, we start to, guess what? Build a foundation. We start to build a foundation of truth. We start to build an antenna of truth. We start to build an affinity, an attraction for truth. And we start to open up the heart capacity for truth, which allows us to become better recipients of that truth. And so as that foundation starts to become established, that antenna and all the different little analogies that I just busted out, we start to develop a like and a dislike, function of the mind, like, dislike, yes, no, want, don't want, that is perhaps a little more refined and akin to a higher vibrational field. A vibrational field that has more to do with the consciousness that is being given to us and shared with us, that higher consciousness. And so now our distinction, our discernment is sharper and more clear, and we're not as easily tricked and bewildered by the phantasmagoria, by the fool's gold. Chakshurun milidam jena. Chakshurun milidam, right? So the inner eye begins to awaken. And so we're no longer seeing just based on the physical plane and all the things that people may say to us and all the things that may come up, but we're starting to get some insight into something deeper. And that deeper vision is connected to the web of our Guru Varga. And that connection to the web, the communication web, and that plane, that sound field that they are present in, that passive conscious sound, and that conscious sound, the Vani and the Vapu, it can never lead you astray. And now we can start talking about Chinna Vichina Kartri. And now we can start talking about invincibility. Now we can start talking about sincerity. Now we can start talking about authenticity. And so now there's no longer this hodgepodge mixery debauchery going on, but there's a clear distinction. And we're defining our path more clearly. And because we're defining our path more clearly, we're attracting more clarity, people that are more clear-headed, opportunities that are more clearly aligned with what is truth for you. And I'll share a little something from my personal life and experience. And that is that, having grown up in the Krishna conscious movement, I often felt like I was different, like I was weird. I chant mantras, I have these little wood things, and everyone else has them too. I wear these like tilak tribal symbols. I sing songs that are in another language. My mom pulls up to the school in like some long Indian outfit, right? I always felt weird. I had vegetarian food. And so I had this desire to fit in and to try to be normal like all the other kids. And I've gone through through ebbs and flows of that, so through waves of wanting that in my life. And to this day, I sometimes get tricked into that as well. But lately, because I observe my levels of happiness and distress, and because I've taken the time to percolate, I've spent my childhood reading the Gita, hearing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and hearing this content, which is extremely important and foundational. Without that knowledge and without really hearing that Krishna Katha and taking the time to actually read that, we're not really going to know. And it's okay if we don't know because of, agyata sukriti, unknown, transcendental, pious activity and good fortune. That's cool and I love that. But I think it's even more powerful when we know, when we take the time to read the Shastra, when we take the time to hear the lectures and have these conversations. And so falling into those kind of waves of happiness and distress, now I know that whenever I'm taking those highs and those lows, it's because I'm not kind of attuning my spiritual life properly. I now know that I'm kind of like this little robot machine and things are going wrong when my life is not spiritually attuned. And things go great when it is. And when they go great, I offer them to my Gurudev. And when they don't go great, I kind of offer them to my Gurudev in the form of a prayer and crying, right? So that's how I calibrate And having gone into a recent little roller coaster dip, turmoil, quicksand episode, I understood that I was becoming a victim of the phantasmagoria. And I realized and observed where I was misinterpreting truth for untruth, and untruth for truth. And I quickly, switched lanes by grasping more firmly my Seva, which is to share Krishna consciousness with the world through kirtan, through music, through sound, through speaking, and to absorb myself in that more firmly. And obviously here at the Seva Ashram, I have the opportunity to serve the deities and to speak here. So clasping on more firmly to what is truth, because at least I kind of know what that is now because of some chakshurun militam happening from the grace of Gurudev, some inner eye awakening. And that truth set me up for a better success. And, it's a very practical example because guess what? Krishna consciousness gets practical and it is day to day. It's not just like some little cloud in the sky, like dream vision about like something transcendental in a forest. No, it's actually very practical and it's happening on the day to day. And so what I experienced was a reaffirming my faith, my sadhana, and my practice, and leaving away some associations, but not just some associations, but some tendencies in those associations to be looking for validation, to be looking for fitting in, but within a place that actually, like, I'm there to share something. I'm not there to fit in. I'm there to actually break the norm, right? So much so that I actually had to have some conversations about withdrawing my involvement in a project because I didn't like the character of one of the persons involved in this musical project, and that because what I'm representing is so divine, that when I see the seedling of this kind of character, I know when I see like the sprouting or the symptom of this kind of character, I know what the seed is, and I don't want to be associated with that. And this was a scary conversation for me because it's a project that I'm interested in, a musical collaboration. But I understood that what I was saying about slashing it at the root, nipping it in the bud, and this is why this topic is so present for me, because I actually had to experience that and activate that. And so the conversation came where I expressed that and explained that and was completely vulnerable and authentic in that I'm sorry to say this, but I don't feel comfortable engaging in this project as a result of this situation and this thing that's taking place. And here's what happens when you clasp onto your truth. Is that, not always, right? It's not always peaches and cream. But there was actually a reciprocity and an increased respect for what I'm doing, which was not what I was expecting, right? So I'm just bringing this up because I had this experience, and this practical experience and interaction brought so much reaffirmation about exactly what it is that I'm talking about tonight. Having those clear boundaries, aligning your boundaries and your standards and your principles to the truths that are presented by our Guru Varga as percolated through your system in your heart, because we each have our own relationship with our Gurudev, our own relationship to this divine knowledge, and our own relationship to Guru Gauranga. So it's necessary, it's important to personalize it and to consider it for your own position and where you are, right? It's not a cookie cutter experience for everybody. It is really not. And I find that the more I take shelter of this in my personal day-to-day life And the more I keep, that's like the blueprint, right? This is the blueprint. What they've given to us is the blueprint, and everything you do, you're matching it up to that blueprint. You're checking in on that. Now I have this like divine golden standard. How fortunate are we to have that divine golden standard that is universal and beyond our understanding? Krishna consciousness is not only grandiose and, you know, eternal and beyond this world and like all the blow your mind stuff, but it's also applicable in a powerful way, blow your mind stuff in a practical way as well. And so rather than continuing to, you know, go for the sandish, get slapped, go for the sandish, get slapped, what are your boundaries? What are your values? What are your principles? It's important to establish them, to define them, to have a conversation with yourself about that, to write them down, to cross-reference them to our divine transcendental blueprint, and to stick to that. And that is what will protect you. It's not like Gurudev's just like walking around with an umbrella protecting you. Like, we have to actually get under that umbrella. And the way we get under that umbrella is by bringing everything that's happening to us and cross-checking it and offering it and going through it and cleaning it up, course-correcting the path, dropping some situations, slashing some things at the root, cutting truth from untruth and all the ninja stuff you gotta do, and then get back on your path. Then get back. Oh, then fight. Get back on the horse and fight, Arjuna, right? Arjuna was bewildered and scared. But his invincibility was in relation to his adherence to the transcendental knowledge that Krishna was offering him on the battlefield. That's his invincibility. Our invincibility is in relation to our adherence to the concepts that our Guru Varga are presenting to us. And I don't mean like the he said, she said, Prabhupada said stuff. I'm really talking about like Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, like what is coming from their mouths? What is written in the books and in the scriptures? And then yes, second level, cross-referencing that with the kata that is going on. And then third level, the heart, right? Body, mind, and spirit. We have to absorb it on all of our levels. It's not that now we like ignore and reject the rest of our existence because we just heard that we're soul. We don't even know what that means. So take care of your entire existence. Body, mind, and spirit. Material and spiritual life. In relation to the transcendental blueprint that our Guru Varga has given us. And that inspires me. I hope it inspires you. And that's why I'm so inspired by devotees like Pushta Krishna Prabhu and like Yudamanyu Prabhu, because they were so gangster in that way. Like they were like firmly clasping this everything. And so those are really excellent examples for me personally. And it's really nice to have those examples in your life. So just wondering, you know, for those of you that are watching, who in your life, in your spiritual community, inspires you on some level? And remember, you know, that we're always reminded to see the good in the devotees. Make that an exercise. Like, let's take a look at, you know, lay them all out on the table, all the devotees in the community, and let's literally talk about all their good qualities and, you know, as if we're shopping with unlimited funds in a marketplace for those qualities. Because when you see those qualities in others, they reveal, they shine a light on those qualities within you, and they somehow magnetize and like multiply that capacity within you. So I've had that good fortune to have those examples and to see those persons, and they inspire me. And it reminds me on the day-to-day that even though I may want to fit into this material world, that is not really what I'm supposed to be here to do. And all of us that have contact with Krishna consciousness, with our Guru Varga, We're not supposed to fit in the material world. Now, if anything, I think we're supposed to stand out, and fantastically at that. Let's do our best to really stand out and be most, in integrity and in, how do I say this? In integrity and just divine faith and confidence in this transcendental blueprint. How is this landing for everybody? How are you feeling? What are your thoughts? Feel free to comment. If you like what I'm saying, send some emojis. I just like to know who's here, what's going on. I like to be very interactive, and I would love to see your emojis coming through if this is resonating with you, or if you feel inspired by anything that I'm sharing here. And obviously feel free to comment in the comment section if there's something you'd like to say. Let me see, I'm gonna scroll here. Okay, I see. Okay, actually, first of all, let's say hi now that I can see a little bit who's here. So Paul Delta Merced has been watching. Ananda Moy Das has been watching. Alejandro Ortiz, Jerry Vega, Divya Shakti, Divya. And Jerry says, todas las glorias al divino maestro espiritual. Okay, beautiful invocation. Nandu is watching. Vinicius is watching, saying Jai. Jagannath Swami is watching, representing with the Mat logo. Nikunja Bihari is here watching. Seta is watching. And Nikunja Bihari Das has written, the allure of false happiness is always distorting the vision of us conditioned souls. Yeah, the allure of false happiness. It's true. And what the coolest thing is, just to kind of go off of what you wrote there, is that like, you know how sometimes these expressions of like, you can't sit with us, like we're too cool kind of thing, like we don't really need to subscribe to the happiness of this world. We got something way cooler than that. And what's interesting is that, happiness and all of these amazing things actually are the byproduct of engaging in this transcendental spiritual practice and movement. I find that when I'm more absorbed in my Krishna consciousness, things work better. And that's not the motivation, but it's just, we can't so often, trust our own impulses because they're bound to be distracted by the allurements. And we're not really trying to fit in this world, actually. We're really trying to represent and stand out and present a contrast. Present a contrast to the collective status quo, to the party spirit, to all those mundane little isms that I really do want to just slash at the root, right? Within and without. But it's like, where is that exist? Where are those allurements existing within us? And I once wrote, and I've mentioned this story before in a previous live stream, that I remember writing to Srila Govinda Maharaj when I was about, 16, 17. And I told him, you are Govinda. You fulfill both material and spiritual desires. And because I have material desires, you are instructing me to finish my education so that I can be well equipped to manifest those material desires. And I said, and that's great, and may all that come, but only for the purpose of serving your vision and your desire. And because that is what I know is supreme, I would like to spend some time bowing my head there and having your direct association so that I can understand what is truth and what is untruth, so that when that success comes, I know how to properly engage it. So that I'm not like bewildered, won the lottery, and now I don't know what I'm doing, right? So that I understand how to engage any wealth, any fame, any this, any that, whatever, any joy, any happiness, anything that comes, great. Let's properly engage it. Now we're talking, it's like anything that is unfortunate that comes, great. Let's properly engage it so that we can really continue to refine ourselves, which is why those not so great things come, to create that contrast and to help us become brighter, better, more efficient, more quick, more clear, more discerning. So what are those boundaries? What is that foundation of truth for you? And if you don't know, take the time to find out. Think about the things that you hear and relate them to your life. Try to activate them in the different areas of your life. Dandavat, Javier is here, and Harka Bahadur Gaurang and Sakshi Singh. Dandavat pranams, everybody, welcome. So it's important to have those boundaries, and it's important to have those delineations and that distinction on all levels, body, mind, and spirit. Not just spiritually, but also in the physical plane and also in your activities. And we're not talking about, like false renunciation and false, control, etc. But at least understanding what your principles and your values are and what you're not willing to put up with. And hey, sometimes we're kind of like, everybody's welcomed, everything's cool, everything will work out as it's meant to, and we allow things to happen. And we allow situations to take place. And then you may experience that maybe that wasn't the right move or maybe that wasn't the right situation. And that's cool, cry your tears, wipe them, move on. And next time that same phantasmagoria comes up dressed up in a different color, but with the same little, signs and red flags, you're like, nah, I'm not gonna fall for this time because I already know. And now here's where I drop the guillotine and establish my boundary. I don't roll with you. I don't chill with this. I don't engage in that, right? So some people have boundaries around, not wanting to associate with certain kinds of activities. And some people have boundaries around not wanting to associate with certain kinds of conversations. And some people have boundaries around being engaged in a certain kind of way. So, what are those boundaries for you? And how are they related to and connected to the sustainability of your spiritual evolution, which is really what we're trying to get at. And obviously we have some balancing to do with our material and our spiritual life. Obviously we have to understand from that perspective as well. But it's important to consider that. And, Gurudev Govinda Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj once said to me, you must build your foundation upon which you can dance. And he said it like that. I was like, okay. And I've been meditating on that to this day, and new answers are coming they're like constantly ever expanding answers. And one thing that I'm getting is that a part of building my foundation upon which I can dance is establishing a clear Siddhantic foundation and the clear boundaries around how I represent, who I represent with, what I do, and how I associate with people. And it's extremely important because guess what? I'm less prone to be distracted and engaged in the phantasmagoria. So that's how we nip it in the bud. You see maybe you bite the sand dish, get slapped, experience a phantasmagoria, but please learn from it. Please learn from the mistake. Please learn from the negative experience. Okay, say you have to do it again, and you mess up again and go through the same drama or similar drama, different costume. Cool, okay, you've had to kind of do it again. You might have to repeat it a couple times, but learn from those mistakes each time and actively create your blueprint. Actively create. Oh, that goes in the truth bucket, that goes in the untruth bucket, because then what happens is now you have a reference and you can quickly reference that information as it happens and be way faster at avoiding those entanglements next time, right? And I'm speaking this from my own experience. This is my process for how I live. And It may be imperfect, and may it continue to evolve until I can live a life that is an exemplary Krishna conscious life, like the devotees that I mentioned, and including Srila Janardhan Maharaj, because he is one of the most gangster, actually. But yes, how can we really stop falling victim to the tricks? They're pretty elementary tricks, guys. We have to kind of evolve a little bit more. We have to stop falling for the same little illusions. And the way we're going to do that is by having some uncomfortable conversations and moments about creating those boundaries and standing up and holding a stake in the ground for what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And it's okay to have some of your personal experience and your personal perspective as well, because we're not, you're not a ghost. This is not the impersonal path. This is bhakti yoga, personal relationship with the divine. It includes you. So honor also your heart, honor also what's truth for you, but just remember that it may evolve. So always be in that percolation process for yourself, for your own mind, because there's always room to evolve. And what we think and what we know and what we decide is not absolute. So tread carefully, obviously, but also pay respect to what is your truth and honor that. And, a little side topic that I thought was supplementary to this concept of boundaries and china vichina kartri and truth and untruth is this topic of, what was it? Yeah, humility and tolerance. It's like not disturbing other people's minds and not letting others' minds disturb you. Don't like it? Don't put up with it. Cut the root and let it go. We don't have to suffer unnecessarily. And that's what I'm saying. This blueprint is really mukti mohanta datri. It's giving us liberation from suffering. That's not our ultimate campaign. Our ultimate campaign is Bilasatu Hridi Nityam Bhakti Siddhantavani, is may you eternally chant the glories of the transcendental plane. May it eternally, like fountainhead, sing from your heart. Every word is a song, every step is a dance. That is really our campaign. Kirtan, bhakti, devotion, ecstasy, bliss. But side campaign is freedom from liberation. We're unnecessarily suffering because, palasha shumkili, we're like by smelling that like flower that doesn't, and the bug is flying up our nose and biting us. We have a tendency to make those mistakes. So identify the transcendental blueprint, let it percolate through your system, establish your foundation of what is truth and untruth, have firm boundaries, establish them, communicate them, express them, use your voice, chant the holy name. This reminds me of a rap that I had made with my friend Pandita, where chant the japa japa, string the mala mala, give the dandavata. Yeah, we have fun. But anyway, sing the holy name and understand what that truth is for you and create that foundation for yourself. That is the gist of what I want to share this evening, and I may continue expanding on this topic and come up with a few more, shlokas to share and more concepts to share, because I think it's very, very important for us to stop trying to fit into this material world and taking on really pretty not well put together, wannabe little materialistic illusion blueprints and thinking that we can somehow identify. It's not going to work for us. We have been cured, we're curated for something higher. Our Guru Varga has, given us the opportunity to really up level beyond the elementary thinking of this world. So we really got to up level our existence and consciousness. And it's not just going to happen by sitting there and and eating prasadam. That's all great. It is going to happen through that more slowly, maybe more quickly. I don't know. It's all very transcendental and it works in its own way. But I think the more conscious we can become and the more our endeavors and actions match and align with those principles and those ideals, the faster we're going to be able to evolve. The more powerfully we're going to be able to evolve. The more profoundly we're going to be able to evolve. Okay, because maybe we're not trying to speed things up and all those other, time-related things. The point is that it's absorbed within our heart and we're convicted in that truth. And it's that conviction that makes us invincible and that prevents us from, being a little puppet in the hands of the illusory plane, okay? Honestly, I think we should be getting tired of being played, right? Let us be played by, the right puppeteer, So, that is the the way I would like to express this evening, and I really, my style is different. I like to talk from my life, and I'm a different generation, so it's a whole different thing, and I hope that it's helpful to some of you that are watching and listening. And again, I thank Srila Bhaktipavan Janardana Maharaj for really gifting me the opportunity of this service, of being able to share something here. Thank you to my Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, for personally actually giving me the instructions to preach the whole world you can sing. And I just feel so grateful that that's my seva, my appointed seva, and that I get to be engaged in that. And it is my desire to be engaged in this seva of sharing Krishna consciousness through speech, through sound, through music, through stories, through dance, for the rest of my life, for the rest of my existence, and may it continue to expand, and may I be able to really reach as many people as possible, and may we also, as a community of, go to Bhakta Vrinda, community of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat worldwide, become invincible in this truth and convicted in these truths, and may we really become representatives of this transcendental sound vibration. Can we please get an army of kirtaniyas and speakers and preachers, singers, writers, dancers? Let's go. Where are you at? So I would love to really engage the energy that I have and whatever I have in this life in sharing this beautiful message. And may I only become more and more acquainted with this message, better acquainted, better equipped to represent this message. That is my prayer. Please bless me with this, all of you Kalpatadu, wish-fulfilling trees that are present and watching. Please forgive my offenses, and please shower your blessings that this person here may be able to continue engaging and sharing Krishna consciousness with the world in a very expansive way under the umbrella and shelter and lotus feet and instruction of Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj. And may you be blessed and equipped with all that is necessary for your evolution of consciousness and spiritual life. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, any topics that you would like me to speak on, please comment in the comment section below this video. I will read these, and I look forward to seeing you next week. This happens every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is when I get to share here in this way. And there are regular classes happening every day in the morning and in the evening here on this page. If you feel at all inspired by anything that was shared here, let me know what inspired you. Comment below. I want to know what inspired you. Please type it in the comment section. I want to know what really worked for you, because it's important for me to pay attention to what works. And tune in next week. Let's close with a little bit of kirtan. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, 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 Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga, 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 Nitai 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 Gauranga, Nitai 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 Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari, Guru Deva Jaya, 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 Guru Deva. Jai Saparikara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Saprashad Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saprashad Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Nishringadev Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabha Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Subhadra Jagannath Baladev Ju Ki Jai. Vrindavan Purushottam Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srimad Bhagavatam. Shri Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri, what is this? Parvat Maharaj used Bishpa Pyapita Diya Shakamat Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaud Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Glitchy tripod. Okay, that is it for this evening. Thank you so much for joining. And now putting their lordships to rest. What a beautiful service and opportunity. And now the curtain will be closed and the Seva Ashram will take its rest until the next day, until tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing all of you next week. Dandavat Pranams. Hope to see you all soon. And enjoy the rest of your week. What a beautiful way to start this Monday. Thank you for the opportunity. Hare Krishna. Good night.